blowing ass point.
All right. Yeah, I'm recording. What thing? This? Fine.
Wouldn't that be better?
I don't know.
Or
We could just have them both close to our voices.
I haven't even started recording yet.
Well,
yeah, we'll have them
whatever,
both to our voices. We'll have them both to our voices, and then I can just sync it up. I'll sync it up. Just keep
that
it
clap was to make it.
Just
easy
keep it by you. Keep your fucking phone by you, and I can just sync up the audio later.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Okay, so let's recap. All right. So we talked about how Japan is the greatest fucking country on planet Earth, and how their population's going down, but instead of importing foreigners, they're letting the population drop, and instead of importing people, they're just automating, right? Yeah. Do we have that so far? So they're just automating. Nobody's gonna eventually in Japan, they're gonna go from 100 million people to 30 million people. Hopefully, nobody will have to work the shit jobs. Everything will be great. But in every other country, they want to keep having the populations go up. And yeah, so everyone's gonna keep having to work shit jobs because there's no automation going on, because people are obsessed with having the population go up so corporations can make money. Now, Jason, what did you say about industrial revolution?
So basically,
before I blow your fucking mind.
There have been a series of these demographic shifts that have been well recorded in different countries over time, and most of them are caused by the Industrial Revolution, and that is basically where, due to advances in medicine and whatnot, the death rate has gone down. And for a short time, the population sort of skyrockets, but then eventually the birth rate goes down to match, so then the population sort of equalizes again. And this has happened in a whole bunch of other countries, and now it's like we're seeing a second version in Japan, and I'm personally saying I don't really see exactly where it's going.
All right. But we do, because I just said, again,
I
just fucking corrected your ass. Eventually, the population's going to go down. They're going to automate. No one has to work the shit jobs. Everyone knows where this is going. I'm fucking sick of people saying they don't know where it's going. But anyways,
I'm not going to predict things.
When was the Industrial Revolution?
Sure.
When was the Industrial Revolution?
1800s? I don't know.
1800s? Do you know what happened before that? No, the Industrial Revolution was
I remember years?
Was in the 1880s. The Industrial Revolution.
There you go, 1800s.
No, late 1800s.
Still the right century.
But you know what else? You know what happened before the Industrial Revolution? I'm going to blow your fucking mind. I'm going to red pill your ass so hard, harder than you've ever been red pilled before in your entire life. Do you know what happened before the Industrial Revolution that's similar to what happened then?
We started farms and shit.
We fucking ended... No one talks about this. We ended slavery. Slavery. You know why that's a big deal? You know what happened after slavery ended? Famines just fucking stopped. Do you know why? Because when we had slaves, it's just human labor. Human labor is generally not as good as machine labor. We have fucking machines screwing the toothpaste on the toothpaste bottles because humans are slow as fuck. So we do that.
Expensive.
And expensive. You have to pay for humans, right? So we had slaves, and slaves worked the fields, and slaves were all over the world, right? And we're ahead because we ended slavery early, like I'm going to get into. So, Europe and the United States ended slavery early. That's why we're ahead. I'm going to explain that right now. So, we ended slavery. Do you know why people didn't want to end slavery? Because the value of slaves would become zero. There would be no use for slaves anymore. We had to keep the slaves around. What are you going to do without slaves? You have to keep these fucking excess people around instead of, letting them not have to do the shit jobs. We need people to do the shit jobs. But when we ended slavery, that allowed for technology to be made.
It forced us to make technology to make up for it.
Yeah, the cotton gin happened. The cotton gin happened after slavery ended.
I'm guessing automated plows and stuff.
Yeah, automated plows. We had fewer people working the shit jobs, more economic gains as a result of it.
Yeah.
Famines stopped. The reason, one of the reasons you can eat too much today is because slavery ended. Because there aren't famines anymore, because we have farming technology now. If we still had slaves, we would still be like, well, we have to have 100,000 people working every fucking farm in America, because if we don't have slaves, then shit's just gonna be crazy.
So you don't think we would have ever had any of this advancement?
No.
If we still relied on slavery?
If we still relied on slave labor, it's a fact. We would not have any of this technological advancement. Farms would not be as efficient. You know why? Because it's harder to coordinate 100,000 people than it
one
is,
machine.
Yeah, than 10 machines.
Yeah.
Right? You know? So imagine slavery ends. I'm going to calm down. Slavery ends. Right?
Yeah.
People can eat more shit. People can eat more shit because there's more shit growing because machines are doing it better. There's less people. People are having, populations are adjusting to suit that. Now imagine Europeans, Americans, I know our birth rate's like 2 or whatever, but it's probably going to drop because we're getting to this next stage. It's actually really important that people understand this, because if we do not understand this, we're just going to be in limbo forever. So when we get to that point where populations are going down, that means technology has advanced to a point, automation has advanced to a point where we don't need all these people anymore. Places are too crowded. Places are crowded as fuck. The world's got 7 billion people. It's going to be 8 billion soon.
Yeah, definitely.
We're at 7.5 billion now.
One of the problems I've seen with like this insane level of automation is that there just won't be stuff to do for as many people. But obviously if the population's going down anyway, then that problem's already solved.
That's the point. Like, imagine when slavery ended, you can eat all the shit you want. You can still eat all the shit you want today. Food's pretty cheap. Food is pretty fucking cheap. I mean, relatively cheap. You can go buy, if you can't afford good food, you just go buy the fucking cup noodles for 89 cents, right? But imagine that. Imagine that economic gain, but like literally a million times better. Imagine if we could have robots running literally everything for everyone all the time. I'm not saying we're anywhere close to that, but if we can automate like 10% of the jobs, that's 10% less people will need. That's 10% less shit jobs. That means people won't have to be fucking miserable screwing toothpaste caps on toothpaste bottles.
Part of that is true, but at the same time, like, I always see these futuristic videos and they seem completely fake to me because the level of automation is just completely unrealistic. Like, you're never going to have something that cleans your toothbrush for you because you're not going to feel like paying money to like buy a robot that's specifically for doing that one job.
And that's what I mean. That's way down the line. I'm not saying automate 80% of jobs right away. Right. I'm not saying it's slow,
jobs,
obviously.
No, it makes sense to do it for jobs though, just not like in the individual's home. Like your personal life, there's no reason to buy a robot for everything.
Guess what happens after we make life easier for the individual through automation, when because like birth rate in Germany, it's like 1.3 or whatever.
Okay.
Because there's too many fucking people. We don't need all these fucking excess people, right? Everyone can just chill out. You don't have to import people. Just fucking relax. So you can automate. Imagine what happens. We automate away 80% of the jobs. That's all the shit jobs gone.
Yeah.
So we have this 20% of people. And I'm not saying start a genocide. It literally happens. That's what people are going to say. You want to just fucking throw all these people out of their jobs. No. What happens is when populations shrink, like,
it's just
there's
like
going to be less
shift.
people working. Yeah, it's a natural shift.
Yeah.
It's something that...
It's already happening in Japan, basically.
Yeah, by having immigration, you're fighting literally the evolution of society. God, I'm going to get off one fucking tangent, so I'm going to go back. But yeah, so 20% of people don't have to work the shit jobs. They can just chill out, they can spend 20 years in school. Because everything's being provided for them, they can just become super geniuses. We can all become generations from now, tens of generations from now, we can all be super geniuses. And guess what happens after all the shit jobs are gone? People can buy the shit that cleans their toothbrush. I could buy something that jerks you off. I don't know, whatever you want to do. But we could all do that. Not we, like generations from now. Because again, it's a slow, gradual shift, right? The Industrial Revolution didn't happen in a day. Slavery wasn't ended in a day. It happened naturally.
Do you foresee, like, the average wealth every person has going way up? I mean, I guess thinking about it now, like, it already has. Like, we're already living with a much higher standard of living than before. But I'm curious about how, like, a small population would sort of affect that. Like, I guess there are more resources available for each individual.
Well,
I don't know.
If 100% of people today, the average American income or whatever, let's say the average income in America is $40,000, right? So now everything you have to buy is kind of on that level.
Yeah.
Of 40,000. Like if 20% of what our population is today, 300 years from now, everyone's making millions of dollars, it's not going to matter. Money's not going to matter that much. We could probably, after that, All right, so the step after this, we automate the shit jobs. The step after that, people can just chill out and reap economic gains, right? A relatively small amount of people can reap economic gains. But then the step after that, nobody has to do shit ever.
So do you think it'd
And
be
money
like
doesn't
a
matter.
socialist or a communist sort of thing? Because like literally there's a certain point where there is no need whatsoever for humans to work. Like,
It would probably be
our technology can build new technology for us.
I think we'd probably get into, I'm not trying to be a weeb here, but we'd probably get into kind of Ghost in the Shell like stuff, where
Okay.
it's more about, because that movie is kind of about like, it's more about identity, obviously.
It's
and
definitely
but
done
it's
like a lot of predicting that's already turned out to be
It's
right
gonna be,
in science
it would be
fiction.
like, I mean, people are always gonna like strive for more, so there's gonna be struggles for power in the future.
Okay.
Like in the distant ass future, like
Yeah.
not in our lifetime ever, but unless we might wipe ourselves out, because we're obviously fighting the natural evolution of society pretty hard right now. But if we let it happen in the very distant future, yeah, it's just all going to be like people are going to be struggling for power. And I'm not envisioning there's going to be like, only 10 people on the planet. And they're just, everyone gets their own.
That's absolutely ridiculous.
Everyone gets their own fucking continent.
We'd
right?
be dead at that point.
It's gonna be, instead of maybe if we do what nature tells us to do, instead of having 350 million people in America, maybe 500 years from now we could have 30 million, and everybody's just kind of chilling out,
I mean, it is kind of hard to say like what nature intends us to do, because typically when you're saying that, it's because it's something we've evolved to do. But this is something that we're facing that we've never experienced at any other time in human history. It's like you can't really just rely on nature to bring us down the right path.
I think, in a way, we have kind of evolved to... Okay, there's a philosophical statement out there, Jason, you're going to get this one. In solitude, where we are least alone. I'm going there. All right. Yosugo no Sora, anyone listening, check it out. Check out Yosugo no Sora. In solitude where we are least alone. That's why this anime is a 10 out of 10. So it's the psychological phenomenon where people can feel more alone in a crowd than they do when they're just by themselves. Like when I am an introvert. When I am in a crowd of people, I feel more isolated than when I'm just in my room on the internet doing whatever I want to do. Because there's much less stimulus, it's so overpowering to be around so many people all the time in a big city.
I definitely don't like crowds.
Yeah, I think people have evolved too. Like when they're in a big ass crowd of people, like, okay, imagine 100,000 years ago, 2 tribes, right?
Yeah.
And they just kind of form up to be one big tribe, and then more tribes join, and there's just all these people, and eventually people aren't gonna know their tribe from anyone else's. People are going to get scared, Some people, hikikomoris, and shut-ins, they will just lock themselves in their house for years because they're scared of everybody. There's just too many fucking people you could ever know. So, yeah, in cities
part of that is also just the fact that we've provided so much stuff you can do without leaving your room. Like with all the technology.
Yeah, well, I think that's more of like... That's just like a symptom. That's something that like just aggravates the symptoms of that psychological phenomenon I talked about. It's like, well, why would I'll just stay in my room because there's more stuff to do here anyways.
Are you sure though? Because I feel like hikikomori are like a new thing.
Yeah,
like
they
I don't
definitely
think
are
they've been around
because
that long.
it's something that aggravates that symptom, like I said, where people feel more alone in the crowd than they do by themselves. They're like, well, there's so much shit to do in my house. I'll just do all that stuff there. So that's what I mean. I'm not saying it doesn't contribute. It definitely does. Makes it easier.
Right.
It makes it easier to regress into that state where you just want to stay in your house all the time. But, yeah.
What's up, everybody? It's the guy who says fuck a lot. And I just wanted to say something real quick. I wanted to talk about the Mice Utopia experiment, and that's with John Calhoun. He was a scientist. He worked for Washington, D.C., right? And he put all these mice in this little, like, this perfect environment where they could all live, right? And the population would just grow pretty much forever until one day it leveled off because it got too crowded and the mice just weren't having kids anymore. Nobody was getting together and the mice were attacking each other. Oh, it's fucking hot out here, but yeah, the mice were all attacking each other, and the entire population died off basically because there weren't any mice. Like it was too crowded. The mice started to hate each other. Got too crowded. Population dropped off. So I know people aren't mice, but you know their organ structure's similar to ours. They're even really really smart too. You know, like rats and stuff. They're like the 5th smartest animal on the planet. All that crap. So I don't know. Maybe we could learn a thing or two from mice overpopulation and how it applies to human populations. You know what I mean? All right, that's it. Back to the podcast.
So I think people kind of have, through technology, kind of have evolved to when there's all these people around, they just want to, some people just don't want to have kids. They're like, I just don't want to be around all these people. Not everyone is fit to have kids. And normally, again, 10,000 years ago, you had kids or your genes would die. Or the human race might fucking go extinct 10,000 years ago. The Black Plague almost killed all of humanity. So you had to have kids back then. That was expected of you. But now people are at this point where they're like, there's so many people. I just don't have to have kids,
Right.
People are realizing that.
Do you think the simple explanation is wrong? And what I mean by that is a lot of people are saying that in the past it's been an economic necessity to have children. Otherwise, when you grow old and you can't work for yourself, it is not going to be fun. You're probably just going to die alone or something.
Yeah. There was no retirement. There was no saving up for retirement back then.
And now we've gone through one shift where it's more of a burden to have kids because you have to take care of them and raise them. And then they're just going to move off eventually and probably not really give back to you in any way. That's the simple explanation for what's causing the population decrease in Japan, among other things overworking people and, anime and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think overworking contributes more to the population and problem in Japan than anime does.
Yeah.
Personally.
It's just kind of a joke.
Because they had anime stuff before all this stuff going to happen. But they are a very crowded place, but blah, blah, blah. So, I don't think it's as big of a... I don't think it's a burden to have kids or raise kids or pay for kids. I don't think it's as big of a burden as people make it out to be. I think what's a burden is education and paying for college and stuff. That's right. It's stressful to have kids. It's very stressful. Mm-hmm. And I think back then it was too. I mean, your kid could get sent off to war fucking 100 years ago.
That's true, but at the same time, it's also your kid turned 12, great, put them out in the fields and they'll start making food for the family.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was definitely more of an advantage in the past to having children. And now pretty much the only incentive is I want to have kids.
Yeah. And I think that's there's a huge thing. I have a soft spot for kids. I hate that kids are kind of treated as a commodity these days, and I talk about, the natural evolution of society, and I think that is kind of one of those things. People can choose to have kids or not. It's not necessary to have kids. It's not 100%. It's if you don't have kids, people aren't going to hate you. Some people might. It's 50-50 right now. So I would say, it's about 50-50. You shouldn't have kids. Assuming the government isn't just going to import people, and then it's 100% have kids or you're going to get completely overrun. But I think that is a problem with the rapid growth of technology and everything is people aren't.
I don't feel like we're quite ready for that level of automation that we were talking about earlier.
The 20% shit jobs gone.
Yeah. I mean, sure, we can do stuff self-driving trucks and things like that. We can knock out jobs like that without really much of a problem.
I'm sorry, I think I meant the 10% shit jobs. I think that's what I said earlier.
Well, either way, I guess my interpretation was looking even further into the future, and basically everything is automated except for the people who make more automation stuff. I don't think we're really ready for that anytime soon.
Yeah, no, we will. I'm not saying we are, but we will be. These things take time. They're very slow. Rome wasn't built in a day, It's going to start off right now, maybe 5 to 10% of the jobs in the United States are automated or shipped overseas. I don't know why they ship it overseas. It's going to be cheaper in the fucking long run to automate than it is to ship your job overseas and make people work for, even if it's pennies on the fucking dollar. In the long run, it's going to be more beneficial just to automate. But yeah, I'd say like 5% are automated right now. 20 years, bring it up to 10%.
I think that's actually a really good point. I think actually, like, in the future, the changes we see from automation might be very similar to the ones that we've seen from, like, the invention of the shipping container. And that, what I mean is, like, we have this standard container which suddenly made it really easy for, like, everyone all around the world to start, like, trading with each other. Mm-hmm. So that is basically what sparked, like, all this international trade with China and whatnot.
Yeah.
And really, like, from a practical standpoint, is there any difference from sending work off to China versus sending it to, like, robots to do here? Like, I think that the social impact of both is pretty much identical.
And it's not, okay, so you build the robots here, they work for free forever, and you
Yeah.
have to pay the engineers, you have to pay the you have to pay the engineers.
And sure, maintenance too, probably.
To make that shit, yeah, and obviously maintenance. I mean, no, nothing lasts forever, so you gotta
Yeah.
keep up you pay the maintenance guys a decent salary, you pay them a good salary, you pay the engineers a good salary to make the shit, and it's gonna be cheaper in the long run because you have to pay, not only do you have to pay to get your shit over to China to get made, but you have to, then China's gonna be like, pay us to get it back. And then, so then you have to pay them to ship all your shit back to the United States. So eventually, yeah, it's just the costs are going to balance out between automation and shipping your jobs overseas. And then eventually automation's going to win out in the end. Every fucking time. Every single time it's going to win. Because robots work for free.
Yeah, except for, like, energy to power them and stuff. Like, they aren't completely free. And shipping can be really cheap, honestly, since we do it in bulk.
Yeah.
But yes, I agree that eventually,
no matter how long it
automation
takes,
will
even if
probably win out.
even if it takes 300 years, the costs of automation are going to be lower.
Right, and like, even if we continue to do it with shipping for whatever reason, it's probably going to end up being, like, automated in China or something.
Yeah.
Okay, any closing
Fuck
remarks?
these goddamn normies. I really don't see how everybody doesn't see it the way I do. I really just don't understand how people can be so fucking uneducated that they don't see, hey, populations are going down. Well, hey, we can, like, we're humans. We can, like, you know, pick up the fucking spear, right? Like we were talking about way earlier before we started recording any of this. We can pick up the spear, you know? We can make shit to replace all the people that are going away. Like, maybe this is a sign. Maybe this is a sign from God or Mother Nature, whatever you want to believe. But it's a sign that it's time to change. It's time for a change. I don't see how I don't see how at least 99% of people don't understand this, because the two people who listen to this,
4 views.
yeah, the four of you who listen
2
to this,
of which are from us.
yeah, if you even listen, if you even make it all the way to this point, how are you not convinced that my way or the highway, baby? I don't understand how you can't agree. Like, it's just so logical.
I feel
it's
like
so
most people don't think about this.
Yeah.
Like, how many other people could you imagine are just, like, sitting there on their Friday night having this conversation? Basically none.
There are virtually 0 people talking about what we talked about earlier. How I want to bite fucking people's necks out. Oh my god. No one, 0 people talking about. I'm probably we are the first 2 people on the planet to have that conversation. But
Okay.
yeah, I really don't.
Actually, that's probably not true, but
Yeah. It's just so, what I've said is far more logical. Because, you know, my brain, right? My brain's saying, like, you're the shit, Brandon, so. But I think this is true. I generally do believe that what I'm saying is a lot more logical and well thought out than just bring more fucking people into our
definitely.
country. Yeah, it makes no sense. It's not like there's any stats to back that up. There's actually statistics and evidence and reason to back up what I'm saying, but just bring more people in. What the fuck could
Like,
possibly go wrong?
Yeah,
There's
drawing
nothing.
the connection between the end of the slavery and then like the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. I think that really drives your point home that like these shifts are going to be causing lots of changes for the better down the road.
Yeah.
Unless we keep messing it up and like we insist on keeping our populations high.
And it's not like it's even. People will say, we'll end this soon, but people say like, oh, it's gonna be fucking hard as shit at first. It's not. It is not. When slavery ended, boom, fucking started inventing shit right away. We
did have a war.
Slavery was ended after the war.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a war over it, but that wasn't even really over slavery, was it? It was more like just other bullshit. People will say it's over slavery, but I haven't researched
Well, it's
this.
it's not like I want my slaves. It's like people's entire lives depended on all these slaves they had bought. And if the government suddenly gets rid of all of those without like paying them any money or anything, then they're just ruined.
Yeah. Well, one more point. I mean, they're not ruined though. You know what happened when the slaves got freed? They stayed on the fucking plantation and worked for money. More money in the economy. There were immediate economic benefits that resulted from this. Just like Japan automating, there's no one's getting hurt. You know why? Because the people that would be getting hurt are fucking non-existent because their population's dropping. They're getting immediate economic benefits. People are just afraid of what they do not understand. I think that is the biggest problem. H.P. Lovecraft said, the oldest, I'm gonna fucking butcher this. The oldest and greatest emotion in man is fear, and the oldest and greatest fear is the fear of the unknown. And that is completely 100% true. That's what holds us back. That's what starts wars, miscommunications, not knowing what other people are saying, unknown. That just gets us into all kinds of shit. Our stupid fucking amygdalas fucking us over every time. Fucking normie. Amygdala is the most normie ass part of the brain ever. It's just like, I don't get it. Let's be afraid. Oh my god. Yeah, it's just stupid.
Okay, I think that ties everything up pretty well.
Fucking wise up. Fucking wise up. Follow me. churchofbrandon.com. I'm out of here.
Ja, sayonara.